Okay. We'll talk a little bit more about each one of us when we speak, but I want to take us directly into the grounding. And for grounding, if you are able to, I would like for you to relax your body, put your feet on the ground if you can, and close your eyes or lower your gaze. I'm going to share with you the idea of revolutionary love by Valerie Kaur. And I hope that we can hold this with us as we go through the rest of the session. As I share this with you, I invite you to lean into whatever comes up for you. Revolutionary love is the call of our times. The only way we will birth the world we dream is through a shift in culture and consciousness, a revolution of the heart. The social, political, and economic crises of our times are rooted in a deeper spiritual crisis, a constriction of the human heart, disconnection from each other, from the earth, and from ourselves. We are all hungering for connection and being. When we choose to be brave with our love, when we refuse to leave anyone outside our circle of care, love becomes revolutionary. Now, more than ever, revolutionary love is the call of our times. Revolutionary love is the choice to enter into wonder and labor for others, for our opponents, and for ourselves in order to transform the world around us. It is not a formal code or prescription, but an orientation to life that is personal and political and rooted in joy. Loving only ourselves is escapism. Loving only our opponents is self loathing. Loving only others is ineffective. All three practices together make love revolutionary, and revolutionary love can only be practiced in community. As we move forward in a small community of our own, I invite you to hold this in your heart, to hold Valerie Kaur's words in your heart. And when you are ready, I invite you to slowly come back into this space, to take a moment to open your eyes, to be aware of the space we are in, that we are sharing with each other. With that, I will pass it to Ina with a question. Ina, with your work in academic research, would you like to take us back to formal schooling and education to rethink the structures that have subconsciously become a part of how we lead our lives?
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much for the beautiful opening. I hope you can see my screen. Hello, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here today with you. My name is Anna, and I would like to start by inviting you to close your eyes for a moment and think when you were a child. Did anyone ever ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? How did this question feel? How many of you have ever felt that your worth or your being in this world depends on how productive or employable or successful you are? You may open your eyes and you can write a plus in the chat or any word that describes this feeling if you remembered, so we can see how many of us are. This question stayed with me for a while and built a wannabe perfectionist in me that strives for achievements and always feeling the pressure of not doing enough. So I decided, while I am in the system as a student, I might as well look into it deeply to see how it really impacts us. So with my master thesis, I explored how education systems and imaginaries teach us very early that our value is tied to our contribution to the economic growth. I realized that this popular education question is not just an innocent habit. It already frames our identity as a future profession and confuses our being with doing. So I started wondering, what if nurturing the current and the next generation means teaching them to imagine a life based on well-being, relationships, and true values, and not centering it on a profession. Growing up in this world also means growing up with a constant sense of urgency, of climate collapse, economic instability, wars, and injustices. And at some point, I realized that this urgency was shaping my body and my mind, my sense of worth, and also to all the peers around me. So this led me to the research
And
question of,
quick
yes.
quick question. And are you changing the slides, because I'm
No,
not seeing the
not
slides
yet.
moving?
Not yet.
Okay, cool. Just
Not
checking.
yet.
Cool.
Yes, yes, yes. Just about to do so. Um, because this led me to ask the question of what kind of education are young people receiving when the world is in crisis? And what kind of education would look like if it prepared us not for the labor market, but for the multi-crisis and uncertain world? So I looked into education, how it is deeply entangled with this idea of endless economic growth. Schools and universities transmit knowledge, but also they transmit imaginaries. So they teach us what success is, what counts as failure, and which future is possible and which future is not. So across the literature I work with, I found four main lines of a critique of this current growth-oriented education. First, that it emphasizes on individualism that leads to discouragement of collective action and imagination. And then that it pushes for a growth-oriented mindset where productivity, achievement, and competition become moral obligations. And then that it's also utilitarian in a way that it's outcome-based, competitive, and obsessed with measurable performance. And it also quite relies to the dominant and awful colonial epistemologies that marginalize other ways of knowing and being. So these four critics are not separate, they reinforce each other and together describe the education system that reproduces this growth-driven colonial world, and instead of preparing us to live well within our planetary boundaries. So this is where degrowth and post-growth thinking became very meaningful to me, not as alternative economics theory, but as educational imagination. Degrowth questions the assumption that economic growth is synonym with progress and instead centers well-being, ecological limits, care and sufficiency over GDP and endless consumption. So degrowth asks, what if education was not about producing faster humans for a faster economy, but about cultivating slower, more connected, and more caring ways of being? What if learning meant reconnecting with community, with our bodies, with the land, and with plural ways of knowing, learning, and teaching? And there are many pedagogies that focus exactly on that, which I formed as first branch being the holistic and transformative pedagogies that focus on the whole person. So the cognitive, emotional, and embodied and relational aspects. The next approach is focusing on epistemology. So whose knowledge counts and how we learn. And the other one is the decolonial approaches that challenge the Eurocentric hierarchies and invite multiple worlds and worldviews into education. So these proposals don't invent any new methods. They just reconnect and amplify existing pedagogical practices. But however, changing pedagogy alone is not enough. I see that this work as twofold. We need to push from the change from the system within in schools, universities, and policies, but at the same time create alternatives from the outside in community spaces, movements, and among youth. So this theoretical work really deeply resonated with my practice in the youth sector, where I've been active on local level, that I co-founded a collective in North Macedonia on climate and social justice called Collective Z. And also on European level, I work with Youth and Environment Europe, a youth-led pan-European environmental network. So for me, this is an example of what I call transformative education in practice. So YE is a youth-centered where young people shape the programs, projects, and political demands, where leadership is not only thought, it's really practice between young people, and is trusted with responsibilities and resources. And at YE, they're guided through youth participation, non-formal education, youth work, support of the membership inside, and all through different approaches of advocacy and intersectionality. And I'm right now part of the education department, which focuses on planning this and delivering quality contents, sharing practices, and strengthening the youth voice through multiple capacity buildings and projects, all with the goal to raise awareness and build youth capacity on the triple planetary crisis, which is climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution. So in the project that I currently lead, Y Rescue, young people from different disciplines and countries come together to co-create solutions on urban climate resilience. As cities are become hotter, more unequal, and more vulnerable, they also are a space of creativity, collective action, if we have sense of agency and desire to make changes together. So as an example, in this project, young people map challenges in their neighborhoods, from heat islands to energy poverty. They design local interventions. They learn about leadership and collaboration, and that urban resilience is not only about infrastructure, but it's also about social justice, about who is protected, who is exposed, and who is heard. But beyond the project, what matters the most is the whole process of learning, when theory meets lived experience, when knowledge becomes collective and situated. And for me, that is what degrowth aligned education look like, when learning is rooted in place, relational, political, and also hopeful. So in these spaces, leadership is not the loudest person in the room. It becomes listening, holding space, caring for the group, and weaving connection. So it moves education away from the individual performance towards collective flourishing. So when we talk about empowering youth leadership, I believe we also need to change that childhood question. So instead of asking, what do you want to be when you grow up? What if we asked, what kind of world do we want to grow up in? What kind of relationships do we want to cultivate? And what do we want to live and how in our daily lives? And then how can education inspire young people not only to imagine this world, but also to begin to build it in the here and now? And an important part in this imagination is to remember other ways of knowing and being that existed long before growth-oriented schooling. And with this, I would like to hand it over to Giovanni to share how indigenous practices can guide this process of remembering. Thank you so much.
Yo, bless up, Anna, and gratitude for your sharing. Also, greetings, Sanbonani, Molweni, Taweres to everybody. These are my ancestral greetings. I just want to put my timer on because for those that know me, I can go on. So for the sake of our collective care, I'm putting just a timer on. And yeah, let's get it. Yeah, for my part, you won't be needing to necessarily look at the screen. So just wanting to invite you to sort of, yeah, care for your body. I understand that this is the start of a conference and screen time is a real thing. So yeah, just wanting you to invite that you don't need to be looking at the screen. I'll just be talking and provoking. So yeah, maybe a deep breath as we transition from one speaker to the next. So as mentioned in the intro, I'm a bit of a trickster and yeah, provocation and disruptor. So I hope I can disrupt some ideas about leadership through the mentors that I have in my life and had in my life that are 5 years old, 7 years old, 13 years old, 16 years old, and yeah, there's like hundreds of them now around the world. And yeah, they've allowed me to sort of pull back this idea of leadership. So I start by what if leadership, as we commonly understand it, is part of the problem? We talk about developing young leaders as if leadership in itself is unquestionably good. But leadership, as inherited from an industrial modernity, was designed for management, for scale, and as Anna mentioned, for extraction, for colonization, and for maintaining a sense of order. It was not designed for relational repair. And the young people that I work with, young people around the world, the young version, Matt, the young Shivani, feels it. We feel this texture. We learn very quickly that leadership means visibility. Leadership means certainty. Leadership also means performance and confidence. And yeah, confidence on demand. Very similarly to the question that Enap offered around what you want to be when you grow up. So even when confused, even when we're afraid, we are called to show up in this confidence, in this performance, and in this certainty. And we call that maturity. In the Cosmo vision that I come from in South Africa, Ubuntu interrupts this. Ubuntu does not begin with an individual hero or anything individual. It begins with entanglement. I do not exist and then relate. I exist because I relate. So if the self is relational, leadership cannot be a ladder. It must be a field. It must be a table where we sit together and eat, or it must be a tree we gather around and sit under and learn. And here is where things get inconvenient. If leadership is relational, a relational ontology, then you cannot lead without being changed. You cannot guide without being guided. You cannot claim authority without exposing your conditioning. This is not how most institutions operate. Most institutions prefer predictable leaders who maintain coherence without disrupting structure, leaders who optimize systems. But what if the systems is precisely what needs the disruption? In our spaces at the Reimagine Learning community, just as a side note, this is sort of the community I represent, and also the community of mentors that are way younger than me, and some of them not even human. Yeah, there's no formal classrooms in this space, not because we are anti-structure, but because structure whispers or comes through in metaphysics. Rows whisper hierarchy, fronts whisper control, grades whisper deficiency. So we sit in circles and something destabilizing happens. Young people begin to speak in ways that do not fit rubrics. They question the assumptions adults have. They question the assumptions adults have, and they question what adults have not sort of thought about or even have capacity to think about because of being overly serious. They refuse false choices. And sometimes, if we are honest, they lead better than we do. That is sometimes uncomfortable to see this and to feel this, especially in the context of what the world will frame to be the naughty one or the one that doesn't fit in the system or the one that disrupts. Supremacy of certainty, supremacy of adulthood, and supremacy of experience are all sort of supremacies that exist within how we perceive leadership. When I talk about Ubuntu, I also don't want to flatten sort of the complexities involved. I sort of just bring forth sort of some tendons and some thoughts that we collectively in our field have sort of brought to the surface by virtue of being mentored by young people. And yeah, we really reimagining or reconnecting and recalibrating to this framework of Ubuntu. And sort of one of the frameworks, or one of the things that happen in the space is that when we see a young person is not engaged or is disengaged, we don't question necessarily what is wrong with them. The question is rather what in the relationship is misaligned. And we also realize that this is a dangerous question because why? It implicates us. It implicates the context. It's not just a one-sided problem or thing that can be dealt with medication or with discipline. It suggests that distraction might be intelligence, that resistance might be wisdom, that refusal might be integrity. And once you accept that, leadership cannot remain tidy. Leadership becomes ecological. It becomes messy, it becomes responsive, and it becomes distributed. It stops being about rising, and it becomes something more like tending the web or tending the field. And webs aren't really like impressed by charisma or well-spokenness or I think there's something about the subtleness of webs. The fact that sometimes you might miss it. Sometimes you might walk through it and break it. And with regard to the idea of leadership, I think there's definitely an ontological shift with regard to leadership. And I think this idea of a spider web, does such beautiful work as the real invitation to see what is not seen, and to see also the tenderness and the softness within this idea of leadership as care, leadership as the politics of care. So when we say we want to uplift youth into leadership, I sometimes wonder, are we inviting them into freedom or into a more sophisticated version of the same cage? If leadership means inheriting extractive systems with better branding, young people are in their right to hesitate. But if leadership means redistributing dignity, if it means questioning the grammar of success, if it means caring for land, community, and the future without needing an applause, then something shifts. In our work, when youth facilitate dialogue and adults listen without correcting, ontology trembles, authority softens. The world is worded differently, very similarly to how Vanessa Andriotti speaks about word in the world. And here is the quiet trick. When belonging becomes the foundation, control becomes unnecessary. When control becomes unnecessary, hierarchy becomes negotiable. When hierarchy becomes negotiable, we're no longer simply developing leaders. We are reconfiguring power. Yeah, Ubuntu moves from this idea of the sentimental idea, and it becomes quite the infrastructure to structurally disrupt that which we understand to be leadership. And maybe as I move to a conclusion, I wanted to offer a provocation. Let me just take a moment to breathe. That maybe the work is that maybe the work is not to prepare youth for the future, but rather to prepare the present, the future, and the past for the youth that are here right now. And with that, big up, and I thank you. And I will pass it with a provocation, with a question. Give me just a second. So this will be a question to Adrija. Taking this, what I shared about community and collaboration, I'm curious for you, Adrija, how collaboration across generations can bring a sensation, a feeling, a flavor of collective liberation.
Thank you, Shivani. So many thoughts and ideas and words in the room. I would love if we could remove the spotlight on the speakers so that we can now see everyone. And before I talk about what I would like to talk about, I would like to hear from everyone here because I don't think I can hear my voice for 10 minutes. It is very tedious. So I would like to invite everyone to participate. And my question to you all is, can we name one community? Oops, I would like to remove the spotlight on myself as well. Yeah. Can we all name one community where we feel encouraged to be ourselves, just as we are, without any judgment, without any expectation? I can start us off. My community is Youth by Youth, the organization that I'm from. And I would like to hear at least one word from everyone. What is a community that invites you to be just yourself? If you would like to type it in the chat, that is all right as well. If you need a moment to think, Shivani says reimagine learning community. Do I have any other voices in the space? My mindfulness Sangha group, irrationalist community. I love that name. Thank you for sharing that with me. 12-step community, Vanessa says. I'd love to know more about that community, maybe in chat, Vanessa. So many names. Ecoversities, Pito, yes. Awakening Leadership Community. I love this. Thank you so much for participating and sharing about your communities. I'm going to look up all of them after this session. So, Youth by Youth, since its inception around 6 years ago, the focus was on weaving. It was with the belief that young people can weave the worlds of their deepest longings. And we can only do that together. We can only do that through collaboration. And weaving is something that is deeply connected to what Shivani was sharing about Ubuntu, about I am because you are, about feeling that belonging with everything that is around us, be it human or non-human. So moving from the story, I'm not sure why I keep getting spotlighted. Moving from the story, the colonial story of separation, to the indigenous story of interbeing, is not something easy. Over decades and years, our education, our lives, the air that we breathe, the spaces which are supposed to educate us, they have been colonized in multiple ways. Our minds and hearts are attempting to be colonized in this space. Even the food that we eat, the relationships that we build, the jobs that we want for ourselves, all of them are being colonized in various ways by structures of power. And the only thing that can disrupt that is is the revolutionary act of love, is the revolutionary act of believing in interbeing. Even as I speak about it, I am holding in my heart all the different people, all the different communities in the world who are currently at the receiving edge of the violence that the story of separation and colonialism has brought with it. And I know that it is going to take time, but Youth by Youth taught me that it is possible. I am a young person, and in various ways, in the Youth by Youth community, young people had the power to make their own decisions. Young people had the power to make decisions that had real consequences, be it through different programs which were global and local, be it through the residency programs where young people were paired with adult allies, as they together navigated questions that were important to them, questions that shaped their worldview. And there was a theory behind all of this. This, going back to what Ina said, if there is a theory behind the revolution that we are attempting, then it ensures that we are grounded. It ensures that we know what direction we are taking. With that, I would love to share the Liberatory Learning Compass, which was designed by a co-founder of Youth by Youth, Zineb. She's a very, very inspiring woman who I draw a lot of inspiration from. Lisa will be taking us through this in detail just a little bit later, but I'm going to screen share just this one slide for us. So it is grounded in, it is the what is, what if, and what now framework that young people at Youth by Youth and several other organizations like Transition Network have been using. So the idea is that we are all in learning communities. Revolutionary spaces are learning ecosystems, which is the vessel, and love is the intention at the center. Love is what drives our actions. And then first we start with what is, which is sense making, go to what if, which is radical imagination, and then what now, which is the collective action part. Focusing on collective action, what I have really, really loved about my work with Youth by Youth is how intergenerational every space was. Be it the core team, be it the wisdom council we had, which was adult allies who came in to discuss various things with youth. There was no hierarchy. I had never thought that spaces were possible which could work without hierarchy, but this was one such space. Um, and that is something that has been truly, truly inspiring for me as a young person. For those of you who might be thinking about Youth by Youth or getting connected, Youth by Youth just closed its central operations in January, end of January. And I'm sharing that because that also came from a place of love. That also came from a place of wanting to build a community, because we have always felt that revolution cannot be top down. It cannot come from a core group of people. The entire community has to step up and come together. And in the spirit of that collaboration, we felt that it was time that we stepped down as a core group, released our learnings out into the world, and just invited the wider community to take it forward in whatever way that it could be adapted next. So the pedagogy of liberation that our team co-created and various other learnings from 6 years of Youth by Youth, they are all out there. I see Lisa has very kindly shared the website as well on the chat. And yeah, showing up for each other was the revolution that became possible at Youth by Youth. Showing up for each other was something that we chose to continue to do even when we were no longer colleagues. And even stepping back is an act of love, because for true liberatory learning to be possible, the efforts have to come from the community. So we just released our learnings out into the world, hoping that we will come together as a community out of love for ourselves, each other, and for the worlds of our deepest longings to come true. And with that, I'm already tired of hearing my own voice. So I'm going to pass it on to Lisa, who will take us through an embodied practice based on the Liberatory Learning Compass. And I'll definitely share details in the chat if anyone wants to get in touch. Thank you for your love and for being Lisa.
Thank you, Adrija. Yes. So it's been a long hour. Maybe we can just stretch a bit our shoulders and move a bit our body. And I will try to use my time the best I can So you can also experience what I want to talk about. And I don't have to tell you about my organization, Transition Network. You can look at it yourself. I'll just say it's like a movement that grew from 20 years ago, and it's now present in more than 70 countries in the world and encompassing more than, I don't know, 1,500 communities. It's a copyleft movement, so everybody can just do transition without even signing in or being part of the structure or anything. It's just something that is released in the world and everybody can practice it. And this is very interesting because out of this idea, these premises that we can, we need to build first the blueprint of the world that we want to inhabit. So it's very deceptively simple idea. Out of that premises is built a complete movement. And this model that Adrija has shown now, that we need first to, okay, to acknowledge what is, and then to move, to open, to give ourselves permission to open up our imagination and think of possible ways how we can, how this future might look like. So to build on what if, and then out of there we download the learnings, so it doesn't stay in the clouds, but we really make practical and informed and life affirming steps on what can we do with that all imagined future blueprints. So the next step would be like, what next? So this is the model. It's very simple, but therefore it's very powerful, and it's something that for example, the transition movement is intergenerational movement, so everybody is welcome. However, I feel it's very beneficial as a youth worker. I feel it's very beneficial for the young generation who are trying to see where their space in the world is, and also what would their maybe lifeline be, or how they would like to spend their energy and focus. So instead of talking a lot about it, I would like to guide you to a short journey. It's just a sample of what is possible, maybe, if we really embody this what I'm saying now, and bring back the embodied memories from the future, and then act upon them. So what I'm going to do now is I can ask you to maybe see where you are in the room. And if you're outside, you can maybe just make like a little boundary space around you. Just imagine it in your mind. And you can also take off your camera. I can put a little bit of music in the background so you're not self-conscious about where you are and what you are. And you can just listen to my voice. Just a second, just to share what I... Yes. Yes. So I would like to ask you to find that position where you're comfortable, and it's good if you're standing up, maybe, so you have a bit more agency of your own spatial awareness, like where you are, what you're doing, and look at the space where you are, and try to relax, to feel how you're feeling the contact with the ground, for example, how you're breathing, how your shoulders are relaxing a little bit, and let the room hold you. You don't need to do anything, and just open up to curiosity and see, and the ability to be surprised to see where this might lead you. So this room, where you're sitting or standing now, is representing your life. This is not metaphorically. Everything for the next few minutes, everything what you are living, what you're going to be living, your whole timeline is in this room. So without thinking too hard, I would like to ask your body to answer the question, where in this room is your past? In which direction is your past? When you find that direction, just turn around, notice everything what is there. And this is where you have been, your childhood years, your early loves, your wounds, the teachers who cracked you open, all those moments that have tested you and had the moments that have made you who you are. And then with the breathing in, you can offer a gratitude to this space. And you can maybe just hold on your body, the hand, wherever you feel you need to connect a little bit more with this part of your life. And take a breath now. And gently turn back to the center of the room where you were first standing. And ask yourself, also without overthinking, where is my future? And also let your body answer. Maybe you're turning towards a certain direction. Maybe it's exactly the opposite from the past. Maybe it's in another corner. And let your attention be drawn towards it. And as you look towards it, imagine, and you can just play with this, that from somewhere in the center of your chest, there's a light, fine thread of light that is expanding towards that direction where your future is. It's like that first light in the morning through the curtains. And you can slowly see, you can put in the focus a certain point on that path. And you can see this is a point 10 years from now. So exactly 10 years from now, things start to become more clearer. And you can see yourself also. It's yourself in 2036. You're already living the life. You're there. You can see the energy around yourself. And I will now invite you to make a step towards that person of you who is already inhabiting the future. You can make a physical step or you can imagine it. And as you step, you arrive. You are in 2036. And then simply receive everything that is around you. Just you can see where you are. What do you see? Who is there with you? What are you doing? What can you smell? What are the smells or the sounds around you? What has happened in those 10 years of your life? From that position of yourself, in 2036, turn around towards the present you in 2026. Just notice how you're holding all the questions and pressures and hopes that you arrived with this morning or an hour earlier. And look at your present self with compassion. They're doing the best they can now. And they're carrying something beautiful and something heavy at once. They're standing at the threshold. And they're asking you a question. It's not aloud, but you can hear it. Like, what do I need to know? And you are from a position of a wisdom and knowledge that knows this answer for them. And just gently allow this answer to form. It can be an image or a symbol or a short sentence. Something that your future self wants your present self to know and carry. When you send a message, just take one more look of appreciation from that year, 2036. It's a beautiful year. And you firmly imprint it in your brain, so you keep this vision. And then gently start beginning to walk back, step by step along that thread, returning to the now. And breathe. Now feel the room around you again, the floor, feel the air on your skin. And take a moment to thank your 2036 self and to acknowledge them. They had all the courage that they needed to become themselves. And they made some good choices. And the thread remains, and it's building up a blueprint of who you might become, or what might happen in your community, in your life, in the society. And it's very important that you remember and recall the message that was sent to you from the future, to hear it again in your mind. And now, very gently, you can ask yourself one more question. What is one thing, one concrete, specific, within reach thing that I can do in the coming weeks or months in the direction of that future that I saw? And you don't need the whole journey, you just need the next step. And see yourself and envision yourself taking this step, and then anchor it in your body so the body remembers. Take one final breath. And just again acknowledge the room where you are, or the space where you are. So the past standing around you with everything that it has taught you, and also the future being there with everything that is becoming. And you centered in the present as a bridge between those two. You're part of the story and you hold this. And when you're ready, and gently start coming back, and open your eyes, center yourself, and I will welcome you back to the room. Welcome back. So this was just a very short but very like possible way of how we can really do the future walk and embody those future memories which we bring as a blueprint for the future. So it's not always the dystopia that is all around us, like building through Hollywood movies or the mainstream media, like all these bombastic titles that are bombarding our amygdala and really doing a lot to defocus us and to disconnect us from those things that are important. So this is one way how we can really keep connection with what is in front of us, our North Star, and also to know that we are not the only one. We are stronger in numbers. We are community species. We really benefit from doing it all together.